Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Ashamed Evidence 852 and the title is, I think my neighbor has been cuckooed. Now straight up, I didn't know what cuckooing is, so I had to do a quick Google first, but apparently according to Wikipedia, cuckooing is a form of action termed by police in which the home of a vulnerable person is taken over by a criminal in order to use it to deal, store, or take drugs, facilitate sex work, as a place for them to live, or to financially abuse the tenant. The practice is associated with county lines drug trafficking. Every day's a learning day. Anyway, the story starts off. Hi, we'll try to keep this short. This is in England, by the way. I live in a semi-detached house that's been split into two flats. I live in the upstairs one, my neighbor, an elderly woman in her mid-80s, in the downstairs one. We're sort of loose friends, acquaintances. I take her to bridge nights every so often, do her shopping, and she lets me use her garden when the weather's nicer, or lets me get some food shopping on her card. That kind of stuff. Every so often I do a bit of baking and like to take her a bit, a slice of cake for example, and at the end of September, when I went downstairs, an older man came to the door. Never seen this bloke before, and he was probably 60s? Not middle-aged, but not her age if you get what I mean, and dressed a bit weird in a blazer and a tie. Was very aggressive and asked what I wanted. Said I was here to see my neighbor, and he said in this weird faux posh accent, Mrs. XYZ is not taking visitors right now, but took the cake and slammed the door in my face. Really weird, but assumed it was her son or something. I know she has kids, but they're not in the picture. Ever since then, things have gotten weird. I've only seen my neighbor twice. Once when she was in the garden with him, and once being bundled off into a car very late at night before coming back in the early hours of the morning. Both times she looked very uncomfortable. Over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed the curtains are always shut and her garden is getting overgrown and untidy. Some nights there's shouting. I can hear a male and female voice, but it's not hers. And a few times I've seen a Filipino woman coming to and from the property. Whenever I've encountered the man, when leaving the house more or less, or seen him leaving the property, he's either blanked me or gotten very aggressive when I try to speak to him. I once asked if my neighbor was okay, and he threatened to contact the neighborhood watch. I did contact the police on 101 and they're trying to fob me off and sort of implying because it's an older bloke and not obviously related to county lines, which I don't think it is too, they're not really interested. More or less got told it's probably just her boyfriend and I should stop being nosy. I'm really concerned for my neighbor, so is there any way I can get the police interested or maybe contact someone at the council? Thank you. Edit. First, thank you all the people who've responded and all the spectacular advice you've given me. And I'm sorry I can't respond to you all, but please know I've upvoted you all and really appreciate this. I'm going to contact MASH, the council's safeguarding team, and my MP and councillor tomorrow to inform them of the situation. I'll try to keep you all updated when/if I get an outcome. I'm going to be logging off as I have work tomorrow, but again, thank you all so much. Now firstly, well done you for looking out for an elderly neighbor, and absolutely that sounds concerning in my opinion. It sounds like her behavior's completely changed the way she goes about her normal day-to-day life, and this aggressive guy is coming to and from her house and not communicating with you and getting aggressive when you're asking questions. It sounds like a very scary situation currently. The local Echo says you could try adult social services at your local council. Even if there isn't enough evidence of a crime for the police to investigate at this stage, the way she's being isolated from you is a warning sign for elder abuse. Opie says, yeah, something feels very off about all this. I give them a call, plus that MASH team the other posters mentioned. Thanks, mate. Another commenter says, don't know if this breaks the rules for not answering a question, but I wanted to say thanks. I'm mostly a stay out of other people's business kind of guy, but this seems righteous, and I'm glad you're looking out for your community. Big love. Opie says thanks, pal. Such a kind soul, and the moment I saw this weirdo at her door, all sorts of alarm bells were going off. Not something I can just let slip by, seeing as I don't even hear her voice anymore. It's weird as all hell. Neen says, especially if she's not ever mentioned a family member coming to stay or visit. Opie says yeah, they all live down south and I've never seen them visit. The last time was more them driving up together and take her down there, but that was 3 years ago. So Opie did update their post and says, hi there, you might remember this post I made the other week about my neighbour being cuckooed. The short answer is, she was, though probably not for the reasons any of us expected. Okay, so what happened after the post? Next day I contacted the council's MASH team as advised, and they were extremely helpful. They were immediately concerned and said they'd be sending someone to check on her. They also asked if I could keep a diary of any events, as they'd like to speak to me when they do arrive, and I said I'll make a log of whatever happens. So the week goes by and more weird stuff happens. It was all quiet, and then on Halloween a group of older gentlemen come to the property, and then some women, who I assumed were strippers, show up before leaving a few minutes later, screaming at the man who's in the flat. They kept threatening to report them to the NW and was waving around this insect spray. Anytime any trick-or-treaters came, they'd get the same response. It was really fucking weird. On the Friday night, see my neighbour get bundled into a minicab, and then she returned early hours of Sunday in a different minicab with the old bloke screaming at the driver before he rushes her inside. Again, all really weird. Anyway, yesterday 2 social workers arrive and talk to me. I show them everything I've written and they agree this looks very much like cuckooing, but they aren't sure why this old bloke is doing it or what he's doing with the property. Now, I wasn't there for the initial confrontation, but I know they went down to speak to him and he immediately went on the usual spiel. I'm going to report you to the NW, get off my property, etc. NW's neighborhood watch. When they weren't going, he sprayed them in the eyes with something and slammed the door shut. Police and ambulance were rang, and I helped them wash their eyes out. From what I could hear, when the police arrives, he tries the same shit with them. The spraying, not the neighborhood watch, but sounded like they tackled him and he got hauled away in cuffs. Police found my neighbor in the property, padlocked in the box room before she got taken to the hospital. We did get into the property later, and for the most part, it was how it had been left, but every door, and I mean every door, had a padlock on it. I did speak to my neighbor in the hospital. Her kids are coming down, and she explained to me that she met the man at a bridge club, where he claimed he was in the parachute regiment, but was now down on his luck, and asked if he could stay with her for a night or 2. Unfortunately, she agreed. Apparently the first evening was fine, but the next day, the moment she goes into the toilet, he attaches a padlock to it and locks her in. That's when the abuse started. During the time he was living there, he apparently tried to take control of the flat and her bank accounts with the goal of chucking her out and would get angry and scream at her when she didn't give in. But she refused to respond to him. She didn't really want to say much, but said he told people she was his cleaner, and the cars in the middle of the night were taxis taking her to hotels